Yep. Hello and good evening and welcome to Varsity Maine Live for the Portland Press Herald. I'm Travis Lazarczyk. This week I am joined by my colleague from the Press Herald, Steve Craig, and from the Forecaster, Michael Hoffer. This week we don't have one guest, we have two. That's how big a show this is. Two guests for you. They have recently won their third state title in Class B for the Cape Elizabeth girls soccer team. They're two of the best players in the state. Joining us this week are Maggie Cochran and Emily Supple. Guys, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
I'll start with this. You guys, best friends, obviously. You played a lot of soccer together. How does that manifest itself on the field? Do you guys kind of have like a sixth sense by now of where each other are and what you're going to do?
You know, it's funny that you say that because all of the parents watching and Graham always say that we do have some sort of connection. And I almost feel like whenever I have the ball at my feet, I know where she is on the field without even looking. So I think playing with each other just for so many years, we have kind of developed a sort of chemistry on the field for sure.
All the girls on the team think it's the weirdest thing because somehow we're able to find each other when they have no idea. It's really confusing. But yeah, I think over years we have built up a sixth sense.
Take us back to the beginning. When was the first time you guys played together? How old were you?
Oh gosh, so we started club when we were probably 8 or 9,
Third grade,
and that's when we first started playing like competitively. And that we were on the same team then, and then it just has continued on ever since probably 8 or 9 years old. And we both play on different club teams now, but still been able to play for high school, which is really fun. So that's probably the youngest. That's. Yeah.
I mean, we've definitely played town, but like recreational soccer before then because we've grown up in Cape Elizabeth our whole lives. But yeah, we really started playing together for real in third grade and then continued till about, when did you leave for?
8th grade.
Until about 8th grade. So yeah, 5 years straight of club soccer.
Yeah.
Maggie, you know, it's well known you get a lot of attention from opposing defenses, which I know helped Emily a lot this year. But what do you feel like Emily's presence in the great season that she had this year, how did that make things easier for you?
Oh, it was much easier for me. I think anytime that Emily's on the field, I know that something good is going to happen. And when I am being marked by lots of people, it is frustrating, but it doesn't really bother me just because I know that Emily's going to have a huge impact in the game anyway. So this season was definitely very, very, very helpful to have Emily on the field and do what she does.
And then Emily, I mean, what did having Maggie as obviously a great teammate, but getting so much attention, how did that allow you to get a little more room? And of course, you're deadly from 40 yards out and in, so it didn't really matter if you had much room.
Well, I mean, obviously, like you said, Maggie does get a lot of the attention from the defense. I mean, I've seen 3-4 girls on her at once in multiple situations. So yeah, that definitely opened up so much space for me up front, as well as some girls in the middle. And I mean, even when Maggie has 3 or 4 girls on her, she's still able to somehow get through all of that and dribble past them. But in the rare occasion that wasn't possible, there was some space for some of me and some of our other forwards to get open, which was great.
Guys, yesterday was the start of this national signing period, so seniors all over the place are making their college choices. What do you guys have planned for the future? Emily, I understand you kind of have made your choices this morning, so tell Maine where you'll be playing soccer next year.
Yeah, so this morning I committed to play at Bryant University.
Great. Congrats.
I'm super excited, for sure. And then you?
Yeah, I committed to play at Northeastern University. So, yeah, definitely excited also.
We'll have to get Northeastern and Bryant to schedule each other then.
I know.
That would be fun, for sure.
You guys had such tremendous success. The 3 years you were able to play, you know, competitive, real high school soccer. Do you kind of feel, I don't know, I know everybody lost a chance in 2020, but do you find yourself wondering what would have happened if we'd played that year?
Definitely. I mean, we can't help but think about it. It was still a really fun season, like the games that we had, but I think everyone on the team, especially the seniors last year, were pretty disappointed that we couldn't have that final championship. But we're still happy with what we had and definitely happy that we got this season. yeah, can't help but think about it.
It would have been fun to have like the 4 years in a row, 4-peat type thing.
Yeah.
And especially like Maggie said, for those seniors like Sammy Olsen, Laura Ryer, like I do feel bad for them that they didn't get the playoff run that we got, but I am grateful that our senior year got that for sure.
So, girls, let me ask about your coach, Graham Forsyth, fabulous coach, 59-2 in 4 years.
Yeah.
He's Scottish, a little difficult to understand at times. So, I guess my question to you is, how long did it take to get used to his way of talking and communicate, and or have you even after 4 years? Because he's a wonderful guy, great coach, and fun to talk to, but not always the easiest person to understand.
Mm-hmm. We've known Graham for quite a while. Like, we've known him before the high school season. Right when he moved here, he was a GPS coach, so we knew him right from that. And so we've had a few years getting used to his accent and all of that. But to this day, everyone on the team will either make fun of his accent throughout practice or just have like no idea what he's saying.
Yeah.
But still, even though we don't know what he's saying, he's still a great coach. We've learned a lot over these 4 years.
Yes, it's true.
His coaching transcends language.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very true. Very true.
Fantastic. Well, Maggie, Emily, congratulations on another state championship. Good luck the rest of your senior year, and thanks for joining us tonight on Varsity Maine Live.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, ladies.
Great
Good
job.
luck in the future.
Take care.
Thank you.
That was Maggie Cochran and Emily Supple from Cape Elizabeth High School. We'll now move on to Athletes of the Week, starting with Maddie Perkins of Winthrop Field Hockey. She scored with just over a minute left in regulation to give the Ramblers a 3-2 win over MCI in the Class C title game. Perkins had 2 goals and assists in the state game and had 3 goals and 3 assists in a win over Lisbon in the C South final. Cam Cornett, Marshwood football, senior wingback, rushed for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he caught 6 passes for another 66 yards and 2 touchdowns, and had a key interception to stop a Kennebunk drive in the Hawks' 42-21 Class B South semifinal win at Kennebunk. Emily Harper from Maranacook Girls Soccer. We've seen her name quite a few times this year. She scored 2 goals to help Maranacook beat Bucksport in the Class C Girls Soccer final. It was the first title in Maranacook Girls Soccer history. Dayton Calder from Levitt football. He scored 2 first-half touchdowns, including one on a 66-yard run in the Hornets' 46-12 win over Wells in the Class C South semifinal. Sarah Talon from Wyndham Girls Soccer, a senior forward. Talon scored 7 goals in her last 3 soccer games, including one in the Eagles' 3-1 Class A championship game, and in the next few days will sign her national letter of intent to accept a scholarship to play basketball at the University of Maine. Steve, you saw this Wyndham team's run through the regional final and state game. Just tell us about how they looked.
They were clearly the best team in the state from, that's just, and they proved it in the playoffs. They beat, they dominated Thornton Academy in the regional semifinal. Then they took care of Gorham quite easily, and that was a very good team. And then really did pretty much the same thing against Brunswick, which was able to score a goal against them. And Talon was, she was just dominant in all 3 of those games, especially the 2 regional games where she had hat tricks in each. And they just, and then the craziest thing is soccer is not her primary sport.
Exactly.
And I know Coach Deb LaBelle, who was one of our guests earlier this year, had mentioned to me a couple of times just how fortunate she was that Sarah wanted to play and said, absolutely, I want to play. And it speaks to the value of not just specializing, that there's value for the athlete, and you can still reach your goals in your preferred sport.
Exactly. Olivia McCartney from Chevers Field Hockey scored 2 goals and assisted on a third in the Stags' 4-1 win over Skowhegan in the Class A Field Hockey Championship game. Mike, beating Skowhegan is never an easy feat. Tell us about how good this Chevers team must be.
This Chevers team was phenomenal, and I don't think people fully realize that until the state final. They really blew through this region with relative ease. I think it was really only Scarborough that gave them a challenge in the playoffs, and Scarborough did give them a real battle. But I think going into that state game, because there's always that unknown. Skowhegan is always there. They're always good. It really doesn't matter what the team from the south or back in the day from the west had done in the regular season. you're going to measure yourself up by Skowhegan, and you're usually not going to measure yourself well. But I mean, that wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a 1-goal win. They really dominated most of that way. And, interestingly enough, Olivia wouldn't have been the girl going into the state game that most people would have expected to score twice. That would have been their freshman sensation, Lucy Johnson, maybe Taylor Torrey, their veteran, who was the hero against Scarborough. Lily Johnson, another great scorer for them. But, it just goes to show you what a great team effort it was. And I think Olivia found herself in the right place at the right time and finished. And this is the first championship for Scarborough, or for Cheverus. It's not going to be the last. They've been knocking at the door for many years. And, Coach Teresa Hendricks did a phenomenal job of that group. And they were really a terrific team, without question, the best team in the state this year.
Yeah, it sounds like the foundation is there for a long run.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. In boys soccer, Marshwood's Connor Sullivan, the midfielder, scored a beautiful game-winning goal from distance with about 2:02 to play in regulation as the Hawks won their first Class A title 2-1 against Brunswick. Again, Steve, you saw this Marshwood team make their run through the state tournament. Tell us about them.
Yeah, it felt like they just kept playing whatever way they needed to win. They beat Falmouth by a goal. They really controlled things against number 1 seed Wyndham in a game that was played at Lewiston. Then they kind of escaped in their regional final. I mean, they were badly outshot, but they have targets at the top, primarily Wyatt Yeager, and then when I'm spacing the young man's name, I'm sorry, number 4. He's extremely fast, and he scored the tying goal because they were trailing Brunswick 1-0. And I'm sorry, young man, that I'm not remembering your name. But and then this goal that Sullivan scored, it was kind of a sports writer's dream, right? Not only does it end the game in regulation, so we're not going overtime, that we're all kind of selfishly not wanting to go to, but then right after he scored, he was so excited he ran towards the Marshwood bench, and he said out loud, according to his teammates, his coach, "I'm going to have to throw up." And then he did. He vomited on the turf. There was a little stoppage in play, and it's like, what's going on? And I saw the coach, Ben Deshane, squirt water on the field at Massapequa. And I swear some of his teammates thought that was almost as exciting and funny and as big a deal as winning the championship after the game. And Connor took it well as well. And it really was. It was a gorgeous shot from, kind of like the right wing. And he, whoops, hey, there's my cat. And it just, he just hit it into the top left corner. The goalie made an effort, but it come out, maybe a little too far, but it wasn't the goalie's fault. It was just a great shot. And it won a gold ball for Marshwood, their first in Class A. And they were.
Connor, you vomit all you want if you save our deadlines.
That's right. That's right. Well,
moving on. Parker Higgins from Lawrence football. He ran for 276 yards and a touchdown in the 36-20 win over Coney in the Class B North semifinal game. His opponent will be represented by our next player, Nick Garrison, Wyndham football. He recovered a fumble and had a sack, both in the final 3 minutes of the Eagles' 7-6 Class B North semifinal win over Skowhegan. I was at this game, and boy, it just seemed like Skowhegan had chance after chance after chance and either shot themselves in the foot with a turnover inside the Wyndham 10-yard line, or the Eagles just made a play. Like, Garrison recovering a fumble and getting that sack on the absolute last play of the game to preserve that 1-point win. They'll have to play a little better to get against Lawrence. I don't know if Lawrence will, squander so many opportunities if they get in the red zone as Skowhegan did, but certainly spoke to Wyndham's intestinal fortitude.
I'm curious, Travis, because you saw that game.
Yeah.
Two things. I mean, it's easy to criticize, but why didn't Skowhegan kick a field goal at the end?
I think, like many high school teams, they just don't have a kicker. They did try to kick the extra point
because they had gone for two the first time when they scored their one touchdown.
The kick was blocked, so I think maybe there was issues with the snap, hold, kick. It's a process. So, as your cat can tell us.
And then the other thing I'm wondering is, I mean, Wyndham had looked like clearly the best team in B North all season long. Does that take a little lost? I mean, how do you view it? Is it like now they're suspect, or they got by their one quote bad game and they'll roll and learn from it in the final?
Yeah, I don't know if they're suspect, and I don't know what to make of the regular season game against Lawrence, because I saw that at Lawrence's Keyes Field, and Lawrence had like I think 5 or 6 key starters out with COVID issues. So, and Wyndham took I think a 27-6 win that night. So with Lawrence is fully healthy, and Wyndham, maybe they look at it as like, hey, we dodged one last week. Let's tighten things up. We'll see.
So it sounds like it should be a pretty good game.
Should be an excellent game, and I think it's going to be played Friday night at Lewiston on neutral field. So, okay, moving on. Matthew Fogg from Chevers, he ran for 3 touchdowns in the Stags' 48 win over Mount Ararat in the 8-man large South final. Eve Martineau from Levitt Field Hockey, she was the difference maker in the Hornet State Championship run. She scored a goal in the South B semifinal win over York, and another against Cape Elizabeth in the regional final. Then took the shot that was deflected that hit into the goal by teammate Ava Gagnon for the only goal in the state game win over Old Town. And finally, from Waterville football, Liam Von Osen, the quarterback, totaled 342 yards of offense and 2 touchdowns to lead the Purple Panthers past Morse in the 8-man large North Championship game. They will take on Chevers Saturday morning at Fitzpatrick Stadium for the state title. Polls, we've got an interesting one in boys soccer, guys, and since I don't vote in that one, I'm going to let you guys duke it out. We have a tie for first place in the final poll of the season. Marshwood and Yarmouth both get 3 first place votes and 57 points, followed by Brunswick, Lewiston, and Waynfleet. Who's number 1, Marshwood or Yarmouth?
Steve, you want to field that one first?
Someone go first.
Steve, go ahead.
Well, I did vote for Marshwood, and I based it primarily on the fact that they're the Class A champions, and I felt they played a season-long, much tougher schedule, and they came out as the Class A champions. Certainly no disrespect to Yarmouth. I had actually put Yarmouth as number 1 the week before, but that at that point, Marshwood still had to. I'm not. I could probably look it up, but I don't think I had Marshwood even in my top 5 at that point because they had not, or maybe we had, but I'm not sure they had advanced past Gorham yet. So, but I saw that team a lot too, and I didn't see Yarmouth. Maybe I would have had a better comparison and chose differently. I know Yarmouth ended up being ranked in the top 25 in some U.S. coaches poll. They've been there before. So I think those national polls always kind of slide towards somebody about.
Familiarity.
And Mike Haggerty's program is tremendous, and people should know about it.
Yeah, and I voted for Yarmouth, and I in fact I voted for them won a lot of the season early on, even before we didn't know some of these teams we thought were better, maybe weren't as good as you thought. But I think the thing that separates Yarmouth is they get everyone's A game every single time out. And I give great kudos to Marshwood. They're a great story. They had a great run. They had some big wins over powerhouse programs, the traditional powers. But they kind of were able to sneak up on some people, I think, during the course of the season, at least early on. Yarmouth, Freeport Super Bowl is whenever they play Yarmouth. Same thing for Greeley. Same thing for Cape. And having to get through those Freeport and Cape games in the regional semis and regional final, respectively, those are absolute battles. And Yarmouth, they found a way to win. It's just one of those programs, you see it in professional sports and big-time college sports too. Sometimes it's just that uniform and the pride of playing for a certain program that carries you through in tough situations. And, Yarmouth was not going to lose these games. Their captain, Steve Fulton, made an incredible run that led to a goal that tied things up against Cape and turned that whole game around. And then they won it. And then they took on a team in the state final in Winslow that had given up 1 goal all season. Yarmouth had 2 right out of the gate. Winslow was completely staggered. Just every year after year after year, they're there. Just a ton of pride. And, I feel like when they got pushed to the brink many, many times this year, including twice in the playoffs, they had to win a semifinal game a man down after a red card. And they found a way to do that after Freeport had tied them in the final minute of regulation. So, it's hard not to go against a program with that kind of success and with that kind of ability to thrive when all chips are down. And, a lot of people don't welcome that stress. They embraced it and they found a way to do it again. So great story. A lot of great teams this year, a lot of great parity in A South. But I think at the end of the day, I felt like Yarmouth was the strongest team.
The only way we're going to solve this is an exhibition game. We'll
Let's
set
do
up.
it.
And Steve,
Let's do it.
Michael, you guys can officiate it.
Yeah, let's get Wyndham and the
Oh,
Cape Girls
hey,
going too. Yeah,
I don't think they want me officiating.
No,
Yeah,
for
All
sure.
right, Steve's cat can officiate it.
I could stand on the sideline and maybe wave one of those flags.
Yeah,
There you
or I'll let the subs come in. I'll do that job. That would be about it.
You've got it. Girls soccer, no surprise. Wyndham with all 6 first place votes, followed by Cape Elizabeth, Brunswick, Bangor, and Gorham. We've kind of already hit about how good this Wyndham team was, but Michael, just how about how good this Cape team was? One loss in all season, and they avenged that loss to Yarmouth in the regional final.
Right, and you ask them, to a player and to a coach, that's the best thing that could have ever happened to them this year. And I remember covering that game. You know, Cape was up 2-0 early in the second half. It was at Hannaford Field. It looked like it was going to be yet another win. They had won 32 games in a row at that point. And then boom, Yarmouth rallies, an incredible rally. It was certainly the highlight of their season. They beat them 3-2, but it was a much needed wake up call for Cape. And, you know, talking to Coach Graham Forsyth after, he had said, you know, we're not as good as we think we are. These girls need a wake up call. They got it. And I think, you know, it took a week or so to maybe finally really figure things out and move forward. But once they did, they were unbeatable. And, you know, I thought at the time it was probably going to be the best thing for them. And after they beat Yarmouth in the regional final, and then after beating Herman again in the state game, you know, that was the theme, was this was much needed. They don't lose often. They don't like to lose. And they use that loss to their advantage and turned their season around.
Okay. Field hockey, Cheverus #1 with all 6 first place votes, followed by that Skowhegan team they beat in the Class A final. Then Levitt, Scarborough, and Winthrop. And finally, in football, Thornton Academy still #1, all 7 first place votes, followed by Oxford Hills, Portland, Levitt, and then Bonny Eagle, which is as good a way to segue into the football playoffs coming up this weekend, guys. It starts the 8-man games at Fitzpatrick Stadium on Saturday with these are state championship games. Waterville versus Cheverus in the large schools, and Maranacook versus Dexter in the big small school division. I saw Cheverus play last week and just absolutely pulverized their 4th straight opponent to a 48-0 win over Mount Ararat. This team hasn't given up a point since giving up some touchdowns to Mount Ararat in the first half of their regular season game. Michael or Steve, what does Waterville have to do to stay with these guys?
I think they just have to stay in the game early, because I think Cheverus is just used to running away and hiding from these teams. I mean, they're not only are they not giving up points, they're just scoring a ton of points. They're playing with a ton of confidence. And, you know, I view them as heavy favorites, no disrespect to Waterville. I know they had a very exciting regional final win of their own, but, you know, to me, if Cheverus comes out and plays their game, they're going to have a gold ball.
I think one great thing about this is it gives the a kid like this Liam Von Olsen, who felt like he could have been on our, you know, players of the week every single week. It gives him him as well as a player like Fogg or Fowler or, you know, the whole Cheverus team, really that format, if you will, you know, that and hopefully some people turn out that are even just casual football fans, because I know I was at the first 8-man championship in 2019, and it was a great atmosphere and it was a fun day, and you know, I don't know who's going to win. I gotta believe it'll be Cheverus, but you know, maybe we're just biased because we're down here in the South. Maybe that 8-man North division was tougher than we give it credit for.
Okay, in the Class A semifinals this week, we have #3 Bonny Eagle at #2 Oxford Hills, and #5 Scarborough at #1 Thornton Academy. Both these games are on Saturday. Steve, interesting rematch between Bonny Eagle and Oxford Hills.
It is an interesting rematch. This was the game in the regular season that kind of made us all say, okay, Oxford Hills is really for real. You know, they won at home 19-6 against Bonny Eagle, and they actually gave up a touchdown on the Bonny, if I'm remembering correctly, on Bonny Eagle's first possession, and then shut them out the rest of the way. I've only seen Oxford Hills once this year. I came away very impressed, despite their 6 turnovers and a loss to Thornton. They have a lot of talent. They really run to the ball and play some really tough defense. I think that's maybe what they do best of all. So it's going to be tough for Bonny Eagle. It's been which has been a bit of an up and down team. They lost at Bangor, you know, also lost to Thornton Academy. So, you know, you got to say Oxford Hills has the edge, but you know, Kevin Cooper's been the head coach of Bonny Eagle, has been in this game many times and quite often won it. So I would not discount the Scots.
Don't ever bet against Kevin Cooper in November, ever.
Okay.
B.
Not that we're betting on high school sports,
well, no,
are we?
I don't
Yeah,
mean
no,
that in a literal
no
sense. No.
Yeah. B finals in the regional finals. In the North, we have number 3 Lawrence at number 1 Wyndham. We kind of hit on that a little bit earlier. And then in the South, we have number 3 Marshwood at number 1 Portland on Saturday night at the stadium. Steve, this was kind of the game in the regular season where everyone saw, hey, Portland's for real.
Yeah, I think so. They started right off the gate when they went down to Kennebunk on the very first night of the season on a Thursday night and dominated that game. And then when they won at Marshwood, it was like, okay, yeah. And they've run the table. Portland has clearly been the best team in B South. They've beaten their the two primary year in, year out contenders, and they beat them pretty handily. Actually, they really haven't had a close game yet this year. But much like not wanting to bet against Kevin Cooper, I really do think Portland is the better team, but I picked them and everything. I know Travis is the only one who picked Marshwood in our weekly picks.
I haven't looked at it.
Boy, it's hard to pick against Marshwood, and especially Coach Alex Rotzko. This is their 8th regional final appearance in his 9 seasons. It's 10 years counting the COVID year, but the 9 seasons that they could have gotten to a regional final. That's amazing, And if he makes it, it's going to be their 6th in the last 7 years going to the state final. Plus they made it one other time, so it'd be something like it's just I do think Portland has the athletes to keep track of Cam Cornett, who is a phenomenal player, and I think their fullback Goodwin, who is a very tough runner, good player on both sides of the ball, will find it hard to get a lot of yards up the middle against Portland. And so it really comes down to whether Marshwood can stop Portland. And Marshwood's defense has shown itself to be a bit suspect. Much better last week than they were in the regular season final against Kennebunk. But still, they did give up 21 points, and that might be enough for Portland to win this game.
In Class C regional finals in the North, we have number 5 Herman versus number 2 Winslow. That's going to be Saturday afternoon at Hamden Academy. And in the South, Mike, we have number 2 Cape Elizabeth at number 1 Levitt. That game's still tomorrow night, Friday night, as far as we know, despite the forecast. What's Cape got to do to kind of hang with Levitt? They hung with them the first time, but what do they got to do to maybe more than hang with them?
Well, it's a simple game, right? You don't turn the ball over, you have a chance. And I think that's what doomed Cape in the last meeting. They know they have the offensive firepower to play with anybody. I think they're looking forward to this rematch because they felt like they could have won that first game. They just weren't able to hold on to the ball, and you can't go up to Turner and expect to win in an almost impossible place to win unless you play close to a perfect game. And, they've got the athletes to do that if they can not turn the ball over, and that's going to be hard to do if they do play tomorrow night in what could be some very miserable conditions. It's going to be tough because Levitt knows how to win these games. They've played so many of them over the years, and it's really, really hard to pick against them playing on their home field. But if anyone can beat them, this Cape team just might. I think they like the fact that they're the underdog going up there, and they're going to go up there very confident. It should be a lot of fun. I hope they do play tomorrow, because if they play tomorrow, I'll get to see it. If they move it to Saturday, I won't. But I don't really want to stand out in the rain either, so we'll see.
My umbrella is at the ready.
Yeah.
And finally, in Class D, we have the state semifinals, number 3 Freeport at number 2 Winthrop Monmouth Halldale, and number 4 Oak Hill at number 1 Foxcroft Academy. Those games are Saturday. Kind of 3 teams we kind of expected to see here with Winthrop Monmouth Halldale, Oak Hill, and Foxcroft Academy. Michael, Freeport's kind of the upstart here, aren't they?
Yeah, this is a team, though. Let's not forget, 3 years ago, they won that developmental league. The one year they had the Class E or whatever it was. And then 2 years ago, when they were in Class C, they actually went over and beat Cape Elizabeth in a wild 42-41 quarterfinal and got to the semis. So this is a program that's had a little bit of success. They just haven't really had a home. And now that they're in Class D, they didn't play very well the first time they went up to Winthrop. I think, they know they're going to have to play a lot better in the rematch. And there's certainly, it's a long shot, but this is a team that it's not a big roster, but they have some really good athletes on this team. And, they have a puncher's chance going up there, but they're going to have to play a clean game.
That's going to do it for us this week. I want to remind you just to check out varsitymaine.com for all your high school coverage of everything in Maine. enjoy whatever high school football playoff games you get out to this weekend. Happy Veterans Day to all those who have served. For Steve, for Michael, for Maggie, for Emily, I'm Travis. Thanks for joining us this week on Varsity Maine Live.